the first time I met you was like 3 or 4 weeks after she died, maybe not even that long, and you came around here and I had no memory of you. And one of the things that I love about you is that you just wear your heart on your sleeve and you're very open.
It's how you have to be, John, because that's the way you filter people who mean you wrong.
Right.
You wear your heart on your sleeve. You give the first opportunity for people to fuck with you. And once you see that they fuck with you, it enables you to fuck them off. Simple as that.
Fuck them off as in what? Just pay them no attention?
Yeah, right, that's it. Right. You don't have to deal with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a good weapon to have. Because I can sit here and tell you everything. As you said, wear my heart completely on my sleeve. And if I see that someone takes the piss or...
Yeah, right.
I can choose then on just say, you know what, see you later.
This is a podcast for Kel. That's Ed you were hearing there. So what happened was about 3 or 4 weeks after Kelly died, there was a knock at the door. And it was an early Friday evening, I remember. And there was this really crew-cut, military-looking 23-year-old man at the door. And he told me that he lived nearby. And he said that he'd met me in passing, but he didn't think I would remember, and I didn't. But he said that he'd known Kel when she was living here and he was extremely affected by her death and could he come in and talk about it. And he came in and he was just speaking this torrent of stuff about Kel's passing and what he said she'd done for him. He said that he owed his life to her. Eddie met Kel when they were both at sixth form college in September 2012. Kel, I don't think, had started going out with James at that point. They were just friends. And Eddie, James and Kel would hang out together at the college. That's where Eddie's and my conversation starts, but as you'll hear, the talk pivots very quickly into Eddie's story. This edition of the podcast is a bit different from the others because it's just one long interview. And in fact, most of it isn't about Kel. The reason that I think it's worth listening to is Eddie speaks about his own struggles with mental health. And like Kel, he also was admitted to an adolescent mental health unit, although in his case he was, I think, 17 or 18. But there are lots of other parallels between Ed's story and Kel's. Ed also speaks with a great deal of insight about the mentality of suicide and the cunning nature of it, the way it insinuates itself inside you. And he's a very honest person. But if you want to just hear the bits that are about Kel, Ed speaks about Kel around 25 minutes into this. Or just move on to the next episode, part 7, which carries on telling Kel's story. For those of you who are still here, I think it's a really interesting conversation, and I think Kel would think so too.
Everyone's got their own part that they want to share. I can only speak for me. As I've said to you, Kelly was a part of my life, maybe a brief, short part, but that part has enabled me to be today, in the full word be, like alive, and be here, and be with you, and be with my child, and get married, and it's small things, and I think people often overlook the small things when they shouldn't. The small things for me was the attention, was the concern, was the partaking of her presence when nobody else was, when everybody else was like, oh, he's a bit weird. She saw another, like, she knew me for me and was like, look, this is not him. This is him being tormented by whoever he's being tormented on his own. Because I was on my own. My parents didn't understand. My parents were blaming themselves the whole time, with me having to constantly tell them and try and reassure them, it isn't you, it's me. When you're in a battle with your own mind, John, it's a hard place where people are very rarely going to help. I came out on a weekend at home, and Kel and James, we went to Wetherspoons. Actually, they took me to.
So you came out of where?
The Coburn Centre in Newham.
What is that?
It's a psychiatric place for adolescent mental health.
Okay, so how old were you when you went in there? So you met Kel. You were at B6 with Kel.
Yep.
Did you finish your A-level stuff there? You stopped?
No. I stopped roughly around, I think, a year before finishing, because that's when stuff got really, really weird for me. I mean, I was on the bus going to... I remember it like yesterday. I was with my cousin going ice skating at Lee Valley, ice rink, and the bus was completely empty. It was a Friday night, and they do from 11 a disco thing. So I was like, hey, let's go, right? And the bus was completely empty, and I got up and I let a woman sit in the seat I was sitting on, despite the bus being empty. And my cousin was just like, why did you get up?
You said that? Sorry,
my cousin, Lautrim.
your cousin? You're with your cousin?
Yep. So I got up and moved off the seat because she wanted to sit in the seat I was in, but there was nobody there. And then I had a massive panicky attack, and then all of a sudden I had this like really warm, ultra feeling, like, you know what I mean? I felt like I basically had an anxiety attack. There was nobody there. So I got up for this fictional woman who in my mind I was seeing. I don't know why.
To you, that
She
was a
spoke
real
nothing.
flesh and
That
blood
was
woman.
real.
There was
That was
nothing
real.
odd about it. You
No-
just saw her. You saw a person like you see
Thing
me
is,
now.
thing is, the bus didn't stop. I can't explain it. It was like she was just there, and it was normal because people get off on the bus all the fucking time.
And how long between that and the time
And
was
then-
it between you then admitted yourself, or
No,
what
no,
happened,
no,
or
no.
you
No,
were admitted? What happened?
Up to the time where I was admitted, I had to go home that night. I had to go home. You know, my parents were like really worried and stuff, and then I could hear things, like it was murmurs. I could hear things.
And that all started then around that time.
Yeah,
Post
same-
the bus,
same night.
same day.
And it was maybe around 2-3 o'clock, and I was just like, I can't do this. This isn't me. Everything's happy. Like, what the fuck's happening to me? It was just such an overwhelming thing, and it just all started getting to me. So I remember my granddad had my granddad had some lorazepam. So I took a whole pack of those, and I passed out on the floor, and that was the first time I tried to.
Oh, you did that to try and end yourself.
Yeah. It was fear. Well, it was fear. It was fear more than anything, and I'd never felt fear in my life. I had 3 separate voices in my head with 3 separate identities. Non-stop. Non-stop. They wouldn't stop ever. Day, night, they were there. One of them was a whisperer sort of something. It was just like, and it was all like I hear you. It wasn't internal. It was external. So the voices was like there's someone in the room, as opposed to in my head. Wow. It was just all a bit much. All of a sudden, for too fast, too soon, too quick.
How long did you have voices and hallucinations for?
From the
time
beginning.
on the bus.
Yeah.
Wait
from
a minute.
there.
No. So the time on the bus when the woman
That was the
first time.
That was the first visual.
And before then, when you'd felt unhappy,
I was upset. I was always upset
about
just shit in life, man. I never got to be me. You know, I never got to be me. So I was always a pawn of someone else. I mean, my family have always been there for me materialistically, but never let me develop as an individual. It was more militarized as my dad wanted me to be this specific person. So I was heavily bullied in primary, right, because I had a speech impediment. I used to be called Remix Boy. That's up to the point where I had something called block in my speech. So it'd be, I couldn't
even get it out.
I couldn't get it out.
Right.
So now instead of repeating words,
right,
I elongate. So that's what you hear as instead of me going but I go
right.
But.
So it's a thing you've taught yourself
Self.
to do in order to stop yourself stuttering.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
thus giving you presumably time enough to finish.
Think. No, because my brain moves super fast. So my mouth can't like follow. But there's like B's and S's and certain words that I have to stretch in order for not to be repeat them.
Did you feel different because of that?
Well, yeah. Because I'm a war refugee.
From Kosovo, right?
From Kosovo. I came here when I was 3.5 through lorries, trucks, and all sorts. Like it wasn't a great time for my people. My dad, as I said, was always the materialist with me. So my grandparents raised me because dad was always working. So I sort of grew up with a father figure being my grandfather, which I love very, very much. And then obviously in my teens, my dad sort of wants to take over now of that role, when I couldn't really see him as a more than just a wallet. Yeah.
And so he decided he wanted to come back on the scene. And you
I
said,
mean, he was always on the scene,
Right.
but just materialistically, as opposed to
but something changed where he wanted to kind of actually care for you. But he did that in a sort of militaristic way. You felt.
So
Which was about what, molding you, saying this is the kind of person you need to be. This is what a man
pretty
does,
much,
or
pretty
that
much.
kind of thing.
Pretty much. I'll never forget when I wrote. I mean, as all kids, I heard about sex. Like I never heard about it before. Wrote it into the computer, took out the landline, put in the old AOL, thing, and he found out I got 3 days worth of beats. Yeah, 3 days worth of beats. My little brother has it so easy now.
How old is your little brother?
He's 16. Oh, he's spoiled rotten. But,
And he, right. And so Dad didn't give you love, but he gave you structure and order.
Yeah, which I sort of value now.
Sure.
Maybe I've gone through what I've gone through, but I was a rebellious teen, and you don't really understand anything, and you're really like against everyone, and But now, I value that. So secondary school came and puberty hit. I remember Emily Darmange. I was with her for 3 years, and she was like my first. I had sex with her for the first time. Like it was just a massive new thing to me. Being loved. My family never approved, because I was young and I was sleeping and I was having sex and I was out and I was doing this and I was doing that. I was spending time away from them. And
may I ask you, given your father's behaviour and how he was, how did he respond to that? Did he try and control it, or did he accept it?
100%. No, he didn't accept it at all. He didn't accept any of my relationships up until about my wife.
Has he moved? Has he changed himself? Has he accepted that he has made mistakes there?
Yes and no. Yes, in the terms of yes, he knows he has, but no, in the terms of no, he won't admit it. so yeah, it's like that. But
is he the kind of guy who might admit it? Do you think further down the line? How old is he?
He's 44.
Okay.
And funny thing is, he's changed 360 degrees after my child was born.
Right.
He has changed so much better. Like completely, like a different person now that my child is here. But
sorry, I didn't want to
no,
your father. I'm just really interested.
Because you're a father yourself, and
I'm a father,
and for me, going through what I went through, I think you want to understand a little bit as well.
Also from the point of view of I had a complicated relationship with my own dad,
Same.
but also Kel, of course, had the relationship she had with her mother.
But she didn't have that with you, because she could reach out to you.
Right.
She could speak to you. She was open to you. I mean, hence why I walked through this door and I felt at home, because I already knew you, because there was no words that were bad about you. I think impressions on people. So say we didn't know each other, and she had said something bad about to me when I first met you. It would have rubbed off straight away.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and that's with every single body who attended that funeral, who was there. You had no one against you. Everyone sat on your side.
Yeah, we were all together there.
I think that's very important for you to understand that.
No, I do.
Because I can see how interested you are in knowing about my relationship with my father, with having me gone through what I went through, because you relate.
One of the things that I hadn't realised in this conversation was that Eddie was still hearing the voices. They were ongoing in his head. You're also going to hear a change in the quality of the recording, and that's because I did the first part of it on my phone, but my friend Cash, who's producing the podcast with me, showed up halfway through with some decent mics.
Even to this day, I still hear them, but I don't pay no mind.
You hear the voices?
Yep. I don't pay no mind, because that's a character I've built for myself. It's a persona, it's a facade that I just don't care. They're irrelevant to me.
So, for example, if you heard the voices now, would you hear them with the sort of...
No, I'm hearing those...
You're hearing them now?
Like you, yeah.
And do they have the sort of echo in the room?
Everything.
So it's like they're real?
Everything. And they're three different people, you see. One I can't make sense of at all.
What stuff did they say?
One of them is just a whisper, as I said earlier. He's just, it's static sort of thing. The other one tells me shit about you, tells me shit about the cat, tells me how many, posts there are, tell me how many chairs there,
What kind of stuff? Because those
and
last...
I need to be aware of them, and I need to remember them, and I need to memorize them, because I need to know how I can get out, I need to know how I can get in, I need to be aware how much space, I need to know how many meters there are from here to there. It's weird. It's crazy. And the other one, yeah, he's bad. So
he says, don't trust so-and-so kind of thing?
No, it's not so much you, it's about me.
So you had all of this, and your first response to it
was fear. I mean, I don't know what Kelly was going through. See, it's a deep subject, because everybody's going through their stuff, and I'm sad because I don't know if she had hallucinations or audio hallucinations.
She said she did at the end. She said in her last...
Because I'm stammering now because I feel her pain. When you first hear them, you don't know what to do. It's such a deep, alone feeling because nobody can help you. The medication takes forever to fucking kick in. I was on sodium valproate and risperidone, and that took a good maybe about 4 weeks or 2 weeks until it went into my system properly.
And what does the medication then allow you to do?
The sodium valproate is a mood stabilizer. So I was then diagnosed with bipolar type 2 disorder because I was so fluctuating because of my fear. And the risperidone is supposed to be an antipsychotic. And the mixture of those two I found made me completely numb. I couldn't feel. They were still there, but I couldn't feel. I couldn't feel fear. I couldn't feel happiness. I couldn't feel loathing. I couldn't feel empathy. If my mother had died in front of me, I wouldn't have felt shit. But you're aware of it. That's what the scary thing is. You're aware. So I thought, fuck the pills. And I think the calm feel really helped me in my awakening sort of thing. And it was a big step. And as I said, I feel for Kelly because if she had that, then it's such a big, it's like a sledgehammer to your head because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to stop it.
So your state of mind, so around 18, 19,
delicate.
It all, for whatever reason, it's something triggers it or whatever, just all the chickens come home to roost.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you go off the rails.
Yeah.
And how long were you off the rails for?
A good amount of time, even when I was out.
How long were you there for?
Maybe around 7 months, 8 months, could be a year.
In this place in Newark, this right?
Yeah. The place mixes you with kids who are suffering from anorexia, who have to deal with kids who suffered with hallucinations like me, with all sorts of.
How young would they be?
There was a kid called. He was 14, wouldn't eat. 14-year-old Asian kid from Stratford. Absolutely fine, but he had to witness all the other. There was this girl called and also had visual and audio hallucinations who would just scream at things. And these are being witnessed by kids, but everybody had their, and then there was I think it's called IPQ or like intensive place where even the doors didn't have doors. I would never forget this girl called, her name was, Asian girl. And she'd have lacerations all over herself. But we're all kids, We're all kids. So
you were in there for a long period of time. And
the only way I got out with all the medication, all the stuff, they never stopped. My hallucinations never stopped, but I had an epiphany. And it was hard to get to. I got 900 scars on my left hand from self-harm while I was in there. It was the only way I could release. But it all seems like a blur to me. I feel like I'm about 30 as opposed to being,
How old are you?
23.
Right.
Because I've moved on so
you're
much.
younger than Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah. But as you can see, I'm married. I like as you said, everything to have a sort of order. And I just sort of said to myself, I'm okay. I'm okay. Like you know what I mean? I'm okay. Fuck what the voice is saying. Fuck what I'm seeing. It doesn't exist. It's not real.
You said that you wanted to get out, so you basically acted sane in front of
pretty much
a number of psychiatrists.
Everyone. And that took a lot of work. Because
what kind of things did you say to show that you were sane?
I don't really know how to say how you act sane.
Do you start saying you weren't hearing the voices anymore? I mean, what things would you say?
Dulling down, because if you said you weren't hearing them straight away, they wouldn't believe you, because they have to believe that the medication that they're giving you is working. And even after you leave, you see a specialist place called Equip, where you got to sign on every week. You go and you speak to, and that's in Hackney Central. Equip team, and Freedom is his name, the guy who was in charge of looking after me. But then you get put into a group where you're dealing with heroin addicts, and it's a different environment because now it's adults. So I was the eldest there
in the unit. What? So you convince your doctors, you presumably spend weeks or months
towards the end,
dampening down certain things, and
looking more happy.
Why?
Half smiles.
Had the treatment worked though? Was it working?
No, it made me numb.
Right.
It didn't get rid of the issue. It just made me apathetical to everything.
And this was the drugs, on the influence of the drugs.
Risperidone and sodium valproate.
And did you want to come off the drugs?
I couldn't feel, John.
So therefore,
it made me eat like crazy. I was always hungry. I gained a lot of weight, which in turn made me feel shitter about myself. And it was like seeing my fat like my mum and dad and my granddad all upset, all my uncles. Nobody knew where I was because my parents clearly couldn't tell my extended family what happened, because then they'd get really, really worried. And it's a bunch of cultural clashes. I come from an Albanian family. A mental health child isn't great, and they wouldn't make sense of it because we come from a very wealthy family. So, no, Dritton's son is very ill, people talk. So I didn't want any of that. I mean, it's a big flood of thinking. Yeah. So I can't pinpoint this is what helped me get out, or this is what happened.
But
it was a mixture of self-realization that I need to get out, and I need to be better. I need to carry on living. I started hating God because I said to God, why won't you let me die? 9 suicide attempts I've got, and 9 times I failed. Two of those I had been resuscitated back.
How did you try and, apart from you took pills the first time, how did you try and kill yourself the other times?
Pills again, hanging, deep cuts. My whole face was porous with blood spots.
And this all happened when you were in the unit,
in
the place.
You get very creative when you're desperate. It becomes a primal instinct. That's why I was saying she could have been held, man. Because once you want to do it, you look at everything as an opportunity. Everything. Stuff on this table you couldn't even think of because you're not in that mind frame. You become primitive. Even the water in the showers wouldn't go warm, like hot, for you to be able to scald yourself. That, I'm telling you, precautions would have been in place.
But you felt that by getting out of there, you felt you would have a chance at living. Yeah. Is that what you were saying? But nevertheless,
no. No, because
but if you go out into the world, then there's all sorts of new ways you can kill yourself.
What was to say? New breath. There's life. There's color. There's hope, and hope is what keeps you going. And hey, I didn't die 9 times, so fuck it.
So you wanted to live.
Yeah.
when you first met me, you told me that, however, that the night you came out of that place, you told me that you were going to kill yourself.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
I was sitting at home, and all my friends had disappeared.
Is this just after your return from hospital?
Because nobody wants to fuck with the crazy kid. like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody wants to deal with that. And your mind starts drifting. You start thinking, hey, look, I'm out. Yay. You start thinking dark thoughts. And the darkness is always there. You get, it becomes a norm. It becomes a norm, but bearing in mind I was there for a long time.
In the hospital, you mean, or at home? What are you talking about? In the hospital?
In the hospital, which means I was surrounded by illness. I was surrounded by crazy everything I breathed, from waking up to go and sleep, which sometimes I didn't sleep for 3-4 days.
So what was the sleep for 3 or 4 days?
Sometimes I couldn't sleep for
Sometimes
3-4
you
days.
couldn't. I'm sorry, right?
Because you were just so awake. And here comes Kelly, wanted to take me out with James.
So how come you saw them? So did you go out? What did you go to them, or did they come to you? So you were texting?
They came to me.
Just to say hi, see how you were doing since having been out of...
Pretty much.
Because they were at college with you. Because they were at the school, right?
We had our own little clique at college. It was me, James, and Kelly. All the time. Every lunch, every break, after school. We only lived... She was always late. James was always late. I was always late. We were like a little fuck it group. We were very, very smart. So the teachers were not really fucking, all over the place. I remember this one teacher, Rick Brown. He hated me, but he loved my brain. Rick Brown.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
He hated me, but he loved my brain. That was us, and that was us. I by that time, I had I didn't have any friends but them.
So they got in touch.
Yeah. So
it
James and Kelly were dating at that time, on and off. But that's them. So there's photographs with me, James, and Kel in the Weatherspoons in Hibernian. She was like, "Come, James, let's take photos."
What? So she was taking photos
of me, James, and her at the Weatherspoons. It's a shitty pub, but she wanted to take. It's these subtle things that she'd done that made me feel great, made me feel there, made me feel relevant, made me feel me. You know what I mean? We could have went out for a drink, all good, blah blah blah. But she wanted to post it. Yeah, you know what I mean? She gave me relevance. And she kissed me on my cheek, and I just felt happiness. I'll never forget that either. And yeah, they decided to take me out, and James was like, "Here, look, have some MDMA." and Kelly was like, "No, don't do it. He's just come out, you know what I mean?" And James was like, "Look, have half. Come out with us." We went out, and I had the fucking, it was...
Did you take the half?
I did,
right.
Of course I did. I'll never forget it, because it was the first time I'd taken MD, and I hallucinated that the bananas were like this long for some reason back at James's flat.
Didn't you worry about taking it though,
No.
in light of the voices and the hallucinations?
I had taken absolutely every fucking drug under the sun by pharmaceuticals, and it couldn't get any fucking worse. I mean, what what's MD gotta do to me apart from releasing endorphins and serotonin to make me fucking happy? I'm already sad. So once you're here, the only road is up. Once you're rock bottom, the only way you can get better is by doing anything else which isn't being sad, right? So what's the risk? Nothing. If I die, hey, I've reached my goal anyway.
How do you mean?
If I took the MD and I thought, I might get a heart attack or die, it wouldn't have mattered to me. You know what I mean? But it didn't, and things changed, and I had the most amazing time, and I felt radiance of love. And she would not let me out of her sight the whole time. Everywhere she went, I went. She would hold my hand. She made me get on top of a speaker. There's photos somewhere floating around online where I'm like this and she's taking photographs. That night was a pinnacle of I just felt love, and nothing else mattered. Love. I went back to James's flat, still felt love. And for that 5 hour, 6 hour, moment, I felt like there was nothing wrong with me. I can articulate, even after we went back to James' flat and I sat on his couch, and as I said, I'm a think, and I said, wow, I am okay. And from then, I've been okay, and I've continued being okay. That was that one eureka sort of epiphany moment for me that changed everything. And I went to sleep. Sleep was like a rare delicacy. It felt like the caviar of my life. From this ultra rare sturgeon up in fucking Russia, I don't know. And I woke up, and for the first time I woke up, and I breathed a sigh of relief. And I'll never forget that. Never forget that, ever, 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 ever. And that was Kelly. And then things happen in life, and things move on. She went studying. She did life gets in the way, but she was the key to the door that said carry on.
Did you talk to her about the details of how you'd felt, your own illness?
She was aware. She was aware, hence why all the precautions and all the, she was completely aware, but she acted like it wasn't there, which was brilliant. It wasn't there. It didn't change her view of me. It didn't change her opinion of me. She had known me prior, and I was still that same guy. It didn't affect anything. I was still Eddie. It was the wings that she had, actually.
The wings.
She had those wings, and I strongly believe in God and the devil. I think they don't play no part, but I think it's about the angels and demons. And I think for that brief moment that I said that she saved my life, she had been gifted those wings, as she'd been gifted those wings many times for many people in the smallest of ways. And you've got to realize that those small things matter. Remember I was saying earlier, those small things. Nice to meet you too. It's a thing where we shouldn't be ashamed about to talk about what we've been through, and I think that's very important. There is no shame. No one's going to judge you, and even if they do, as I said earlier, wear your heart on your sleeve. If they don't like it, fuck them. No, it's true. It's the only way to filter out the arseholes.